Hello everyone and welcome to another game you guys requested, also from the Blitz section of the Saint Louis Rapid and Blitz tournament. This is the first day of the Blitz and today it's going to be the second day of the Blitz, so all of the games will be repeated only with colors reversed. And here Alireza Firouzja, the young Frenchman, will face Sam Shankland in a quite an interesting game. You guys requested this one, so let's check it out. Alireza has the white pieces and again he opens with c4. He goes for the English opening like he did against Yanni Pomnishi. We have e6 by Sam, g3, and now pawn to d5. The Agincourt defense, bishop to g2, and now knight to f6. We have knight to f3, bishop to e7, and both players castle. So this is a fairly standard position that you will see in hundreds, even thousands of games. And usually moves like d4 will be seen, also b3, queen to c2. But the move Alireza plays is a fairly rare one. He plays d3, and now. Of course, Sam could just go d captures on c4, force a queen trade, but he doesn't really gain all that much. Captures, and okay, white will put a bishop on f4. It's going to be a nice position, but not a very ambitious one. So instead, after d3, Sam goes for c5, as few people know chess theory as much as Sam Shankland, so he strikes with what is best. We have c captures on d5 by Alireza, e captures, and now advancing the pawn all the way to d4. We have knight to c6, knight to c3, and now knight to e4, trying to get this knight to this very active square. And then what you are hoping for is for Alireza, of course, to capture. Then you get your pawn here, you kick away the knight from f3, and then you cement the e4 pawn with f5. And d captures on c5 is a known move in the position, but here Alireza plays bishop to e3, and it is now already, as of move 10, that we have a completely new game, and this is the position that usually interests us in all of the games that we check out. Now, as these are Blitz games, of course, we're not going to analyze them as deeply as we do Rapid games, and not nearly as deeply as we analyze classical games. So most of the time, when I go into some sort of a weird deep line, it's not because I think players missed it. It's just because it's a fun line, and I thought you guys might enjoy it. So here, Sam goes for a trade, knight captures on c3, b captures, and now he makes a choice. He goes for c4. So he abandons the fight for the center, but he does grab more space here. He now controls b3 and d3, and if Alireza can safely execute e4 at some point, this will undermine the structure. If not, then Sam will have a very long-term advantage. So here, queen b1, putting the queen on this long diagonal, and also just hindering the development of the light square bishop, as the b7 pawn would hang. So g6, Sam says, all right, I'm going to play rook b8, defend my pawn, and play bishop to f5 to attack your queen and develop my bishop with tempo. Knight to e5, and now bishop to d6. We have bishop to f4 now, and rook to b8. So now you are most likely ready to play bishop to f5, but here Alireza beats him to it. He plays queen to b5, and now we have knight to e7. Here, basically, the cleanest way to play this is bishop to e6, and then probably why Sam decided against it is that this bishop to h6 move is very annoying, going after the rook, and now there are so many tricky moves here that you have to calculate. You just don't have time to do all of them. You have to calculate knight captures on e5, you have to calculate a6, you have to calculate bishop captures on e5, but I'm just going to show you what's true in the position, and that is pawn to a6. So first you challenge the queen, and then of course, if knight captures on c6, which is white's best reply, going after the black queen, you just trade a captures on b5, knight captures here, and now you save your rook with rook captures on d8, and you have a fine position. Both players still have the bishop pair, and okay, the b pawn is doubled, but should be okay. So this is possible, but Sam went for knight to e7, and now Alireza goes for this very annoying bishop to h6 move. He doesn't go for bishop captures on d5. It's a clean pawn, you can take it, but Alireza doesn't want it. He plays bishop to h6, a6 now, chasing away the queen, and now queen to b2. We have rook to e8, getting the rook out of harm's way, and now pawn to e4. So like we said, if you can pull this off without black having some sort of a way to punish you, you will be okay. The problem is there is a way for Sam to punish this e4 push, and it seems that it does come a bit too early, but again, it's Blitz and you don't have time to calculate a move like f6. It's just crazy move. Of course, it's in the position, and of course everyone's thinking about it, but you know that whenever you play it, you lose, so naturally you don't want to play it. But the problem here is, if Alireza just, okay, maybe Alireza wanted to play something like f4 and he wanted to go for the attack or something. The problem with this move is that d captures on e4 and white has nothing. If bishop captures on e4, you're just going to play bishop f5. You're just going to continue development, and only after, let's say, bishop captures, knight captures. Now, the problem is that the bishop on h6 is hanging, and the pawn on f4 is preventing the bishop from going back. So you don't really have a good move here. You have to play something like knight to g4, then knight captures, king g7, knight will go back, and then queen d7. Black solved all of his problems, well, he will enjoy a much better position. So the only way to play this f6 idea is to go back, knight to f3, but still it's not very ambitious. D captures on e4, grabbing the pawn, and now if knight to d2, going after this pawn and the c4 pawn, now comes knight to f5. Again, the problem is the bishop here, and now the knight even prevents the bishop from escaping. So you have to put the bishop on a silly square like e3, and then comes knight captures, f captures, and pawn to f5, and black again has a very nice position. So that's the problem. With e4, basically the bishop on h6 is the problem. So here d captures on e4 by Sam, but now it's a bit different. Knight captures on c4 by Alireza, attacking the bishop, bishop to c7. Sam, of course, wants to keep the bishop pair, and now rook f to e1, putting pressure on the e4 pawn. You could also capture it right away, but Alireza prefers development over just grabbing a pawn. So bishop to e6, going after the knight, and now knight to a3. A bit of a passive square for the knight, but he has plans of bringing it back. Maybe knight to c2, knight e3, then who knows where the knight might end up. So knight to f5, finally going after Alireza's bishop on h6, and now bishop all the way back to d2. And now Sam plays knight back to d6, which is a fine move, but there is also the very aesthetically pleasing knight to h4. The bishop pair here is just spectacular, so you might even consider a move like this. The knight can never be captured, so basically you would only have to decide whether you want to move the bishop or you want to allow Sam to capture this bishop with knight captures on g2, because if you capture, then queen captures, and then you just get destroyed. So it was definitely a nice move. But okay, knight to d6, and now bishop to f4 by Alireza. Pawn to f5, now Sam cements his pawn structure here. The e4 pawn is now very strong, and now Alireza plays the only move in the position that basically stops Sam from just taking over this game, and that is pawn to d5. It's a pawn sacrifice that really should not be accepted. If you accept it, then for example bishop captures, rook a to d1, you align the rook with the bishop, with the queen, c4 is coming, you're going to open up this diagonal, hopefully play bishop to h6, there will be some checkmating threats. You will give Alireza so much activity for the price of that one pawn, and in Blitz you generally don't want to take pawns unless you're like twice as strong as your opponent, then it's okay to take pawn. So here bishop back to f7, and now Alireza goes pawn to c4. So now the pawns are even stronger, but the diagonal for the white queen has opened up, and now bishop to h6 will be will be an unstoppable threat, and of course g5 has to be played. But now Alireza plays the even more brilliant bishop to e5, and now the problem is, if this is not addressed and rook captures on e5 is the only move, let's say you play something, you play b5, we just play bishop h8, and there is no defense against queen to g7 checkmate. Now you just have to give up a clean rook. So this is how Sam decides to play it. He decides to capture it, rook captures on e5, and this is the only way to play. Queen captures on e5, and now you can still maybe survive this with some engine precise play like bishop b6 to c5 to block the pawns, and then, you know, just hope for the best. But again, this is Blitz. Knight captures on c4 was played, which makes sense. You open up an attack on the queen, you also threaten to pick up the knight, but Alireza just plays the only winning move, and that is queen captures on f5. He gives up the knight here, but it doesn't matter, as the bishop now will assume this diagonal, and then the queen bishop combo will be too deadly. So knight captures on a3, doesn't really matter what you play, so you might as well grab a piece. Bishop captures on e4, threatening queen captures on h7, and now bishop to g6. And now there really is no good way to to defend. Even bishop to g6, which seems like a good move, isn't, because now Alireza just plays bishop to queen to e6 check, king to g7, and now it seems like you don't have any useful checks, but you have as many as you want, because here Alireza just played bishop captures on g6, and he was in this position on move 31 that Sam Shankland resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Now Alireza is just up material, and if you accept the bishop, then you're gonna be down even more material. So here, for example, of course, king captures is impossible. The queen also covers the g6 square. And if h captures on g6, then you have this queen e7 check. That's why Sam resigned, connecting not only with the bishop, but also with the knight on a3. So if you move the king, just queen captures on a3, and there's no playing this. You have two rooks and the queen against the rook, queen, and bishop, and the black king is in a terrible spot here. Even if you grab the pass pawn, rook ad1, and the white is just much better here. And the other thing, after queen to a7, if you trade queens, then just rook captures on e7, and then the bishop hangs. So it seems like no square is a good square for this bishop. King h6, let's say rook captures on c7, and again, the endgame is completely winning for Alireza. As we always say, the Blitz is more about speed and cunning than it is about calculating and grabbing pawns. And here, the Alireza was much faster, and he was a bit more cunning than Sam. Sam also had a fine position, but in that critical moment where it seemed like Sam solidified and it seemed like everything was perfectly fine, Alireza spotted the d5 pawn offering, followed by c4, opening up this diagonal bishop h6, and then everything just falls apart for Sam, because without the dark square bishop defending, and the dark square bishop on c7 isn't really a part of this game. Like if it was on g7, then it would be a different story, but on c7, not so much. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Alireza, who not only was leading the tournament after the 3 days of Rapid, but is also now leading after 1 day of Blitz. So sorry about that. We're going to check that out as well. But these are the standings after 3 days of Rapid and 1 day of Blitz. So the two Frenchmen, Alireza and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, are in the lead. Alireza with 15 points, followed by Maxime with 13.5. Then Jeffrey Chion with 13. Yanni Pomnashi with 12.5. And then Hikaru Nakamura, who was last after 3 days of Rapid, now emerges in 5th. As he had an incredible day of Blitz. Out of 9 Blitz games, he did not lose a single one. He won 6 games and drew 3, and once again proved that he is definitely rightly deserved the highest rated Blitz player in the world. Then Fabiano Caruana, Levon, and Shahriar Mamedjara with 11.5, Sam Shankland with 11, and Linier Dominguez with 8.5. And there is one more day of incredible Blitz action, so we'll see if Alireza can take this all the way, or maybe someone will catch up to him. If Hikaru pulls another day like this, it could be very close. And of course, Maxime also playing incredible chess. And these are the live Blitz ratings, if you guys are interested in that. So you can see Nakamura is the highest rated Blitz player in the world. Currently, he won almost 40 points in this event. Then Aronyan in 2nd, Alireza in 3rd, Caruana in 4th, Artemiev in 5th, Magnus only in 6th place, but as you can see, no points for him. He's currently not playing any Blitz games, but he did to maybe mess with Hikaru a little bit. He did log into chess.com and overtook Hikaru as the highest rated Blitz player on chess.com. That was, I guess, sort of a response to Hikaru on having so many points in actual live rating. And also now as chess.com owns absolutely everything in the world, makes sense for Magnus to play there as well. And then you have Giri in 8th, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in 9th, Daniil Dubov in 10th, and so on and so on. These are the top 25 Blitz players in the world. That's the game and the live ratings and the standings. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I would like to thank Damon Targaryen, Girish Sharma, Zamian Parsons, Uzi Shalev, and Kurosh Ruchkamgar for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the St. Louis Blitz tournament until it finishes. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And do use #suggestion if you have any games that you would like me to cover. See you soon.